Snipers, you have to see what's happening to the Bitcoin price this Sunday, as we have not closed any 4-hour candles fully below 41,950, causing Bitcoin right now to see some upside back above this extremely important level. And now we're at 42,500. So I decided to go live, especially because of the fact that we hit 50,000 subscribers on the Snipers channel recently. I just want to thank each and every one of you guys for allowing us to hit 50,000 subscribers. I cannot wait for us to hit 100,000 subscribers. And in today's live stream, I'm going to be taking some questions from the live audience and also covering altcoins, because if this truly is in fact an opportunity for us to be entering into positions in the cryptocurrency market, the real question is, with Bitcoin dominance recently breaching its yearly lows and decoupling away from the DXY, and the altcoins outside of Ethereum looking extremely bullish inside of a symmetrical triangle right now, are the opportunities really in Bitcoin, or are they going to be in altcoins if we start to see upside here, with Bitcoin allowing the total market cap to continue further up and allowing Ethereum as well to follow that path and potentially continue to see bullishness, as we know the Ethereum to Bitcoin chart is extremely bullish on the macro, just now coming to test a major market structural support, which it's currently found some support at. And that's why Ethereum right now is up 3.78%, while Bitcoin is only up 1.96%. So the question is, where is the outperformance going to be in the altcoin markets? I think that we'll look at Cardano and Shibu. I know those are two of the most popular coins outside of Bitcoin, at least on the YouTube front of things. And we'll also talk about specifically Ethereum, what I'm expecting there with the Ethereum to Bitcoin chart. But I did update all of my charts because I think we're at a point in the market where we have to start just kind of clearing away all of the scraps that we've really created since we started to see the market cycle top here, when we initially came up to 64,000 and then double topped at 69,000. And so I went ahead and put some extremely important market structural parallel channels on all of our charts, because once again, channels and parallel channels specifically in technical analysis are extremely subjective. However, I'll talk about why our parallel channels are important and why each one is significant. Specifically for Bitcoin, I addressed the double top with this parallel channel that I have got in front of you guys here. And the reason being is because I think the double top that we recently saw is extremely important when it comes to market structure and the macro. I think that the higher high that was recently formed is also extremely important. And then you can see here, when you extend this range down, I tried to take all of the market structure that came after Bitcoin had broke its previous all-time high from 2017 and 18, where you can see it's in yellow right at that $19,800 level, because I feel as if, and we know this, and this is actually a fact, that when Bitcoin breaches an all-time high and it breaks a previous all-time high, that it never comes back down to that price level ever again. It enters a new phase of a bull cycle. It enters a whole new, I guess you can say, matrix on a chart, right? And I think that was proven when Bitcoin bottomed out here at 28,000 and we saw another all-time high form at 69,000, because we knew, and I've said this ever since Bitcoin started to downtrend from the initial all-time high, that no matter what happens, I do not expect Bitcoin to come back down to its previous all-time highs from 2017 and 18, and that has maintained itself as a fact. And therefore, I think that with the current range that we're in, if we were to just expect Bitcoin right now to potentially consolidate over a more prolonged period of time through Q2 and Q3 of 2022, then staying below the $50,000 level really is the area that we could expect Bitcoin to be a very good purchase and a very good place to accumulate because of the fact that that's below the midpoint of this large range that we have here in this parallel channel. And you can see it's also showing confluence with previous resistance. This midpoint, the midpoint of any parallel channel is extremely important. You can see when that resistance broke, it turned into support. So I think that this parallel channel is probably the best market structure to keep on our charts over the next few weeks. Instead of having a ton of different previous market structural patterns that have already broken out and stuff, I really think it's time to clear the clutter, look at the macro. And I think another reason that it's time to do that is because of how low we are and how much we're breaking down from our daily moving averages. That really puts us in a position where we have to start looking at the weekly chart, not the daily chart, to assume potential short-term targets. And when we look at the weekly chart and we see where this 100-week moving average is sitting at some point or another, it's going to come to the support of this range. And so I don't think at any point in time Bitcoin can breach below where the 100-week moving average is currently sitting, and it's really at that $33,000 to $35,000 area that would most likely be the best purchase price that you can get for one Bitcoin in the next 5 years. Because if we truly believe that we're in a bullish cycle that didn't top out at 69,000, then we're going to see upside at some point or another. And we're already 40% down from our previous all-time high. So if we were to just calculate 40% from when Bitcoin had the all-time high at 64,000 before we formed that second all-time high, it's like as if you were to buy Bitcoin at 38,000 from the previous high, and that after you purchased that $38,000 Bitcoin, it eventually went and formed a new all-time high and almost doubled in price to 69,000. So we're at a 40% discount for this downside move after a top of 69,000 on the dot, which is pretty much a joke, as I've been saying. And so the 100-week moving average certainly is an area, this $34,788 area is certainly the place that if we were to even see a capitulation with Bitcoin to come down to this area, that would even be more bullish in my opinion, because that's it. It tests the most important level and it can continue further up. Institutions have been waiting for this time to accumulate Bitcoin. We know the institutional interest in this market. And so there's a reason Bitcoin is at a discount. There's a reason the fear and greed index is where it's at. And it's because they push price up to a level that is exuberant, and then they drop the price to go up and form a higher low. They decided to do a higher high this time. And then because on the way down from this second top is when they can start accumulating to then expect continued price discovery. And there's a lot of interesting puzzle pieces that we'll talk about today here on this live stream, like even the DXY approaching a major resistance area. And you can see this market structural resistance, I'll even pull it up on the weekly chart, is the market structural resistance that really broke down during the March 2020 crash. You can see, after we saw the initial strength in the dollar, the flight to safety, we saw a breakdown below this major market structural support that dates back years. I would say even beyond 2011. 2011 was when this structural support level has started, and now we're testing it as a resistance. And so we have to realize that when the DXY is strong, asset prices tend to come down, and it almost looks like the DXY has seen the most amount of strength that it should see in the short term, and that we've already priced in the interest rates that are going to start increasing here into 2023, and that the market is future looking, right? And so it observes the future. And so there's a lot of puzzle pieces saying to me, and even Kathy Woods, if you listened to her podcast recently, talked about all of tech right now being in deep value territory, despite even the indices being strong. Is Bitcoin at a place right now just below its 50-week moving average where it could potentially bottom? Let's look at this weekly candle close that's about to happen here in 4 hours. If the body of this candle stays above 41,950, guess what that says? That says that Bitcoin came down to 41,950 with the initial drop institutions made sure the price didn't go below that level, and then they let the retail make their decision before finalizing the move with a lower low that did not breach this previous market structural low, which means because it didn't breach it, that it's potentially going to be a higher low, which is, guess what, extremely bullish. Bitcoin went from one low to a higher low down to another higher low. So we did not breach this low, which was at 39,600. And that's important to mention. If this weekly candle closes its body above 41,950, not only did we not breach the low, but the weekly candle could potentially be a bottom, right? Because the strength of this weekly candle is going to be determined here on whether or not it can close above 41,950. And if it does, was that the destination, the final destination for Bitcoin before we start to see it retest its 20-week moving average? I think that it's certainly a situation that is on the table. I think that being so below the 200-day moving average with such a bullish asset, it's certainly a great place to be dollar cost averaging positions. And I would also say that if we were to see a prolonged bear market, and let's say we do come up and we reject 50,000, that there is still very minimal downside that I would see in the most extreme scenario. And I would say that 34,000 to 35,000 would be the most extreme amount of downside that we could potentially see for Bitcoin if this were to be a prolonged bear market. And so at $42,000 right now, it's already starting to show a little bit of strength on the micro time frames. We have to consider the fact that this could potentially be a bottom. We didn't get any full 4-hour candles below this level. It's why I always tell you guys, that's what we wait for here on the Snipers channel. It's a very important way to just kind of confirm a move. There was actually one candle slightly, 41,923. It had a high. It closed just below 41,950. It was actually the previous candle. But when that happens, when it's so close to the level, you want to look at least some of the candle structure. And this was a bullish tail pointing up. So, it led into this sort of bullish engulfing candle that we're seeing right now. But I do want to talk about some altcoins and take some questions from our live audience here. And I do want to first pull up Ethereum, because let's just assume, first and foremost, that we do see Bitcoin bottom out here. What does that mean for Ethereum? Well, the Ethereum to Bitcoin chart is still extremely bullish, and 3454 is the level right now that Ethereum needs to get above if it wants to see continued upside, potentially get back into price discovery. Is that going to happen anytime here soon? Well, if Bitcoin can maintain price action above 41,950, get above 44,800, I think Bitcoin getting above 44,800 is going to be the no-brainer for Ethereum to get above 3650. But for now, we have to assume that there is potential for Ethereum to come back up to test 3454 at some point or another, because it was an extremely important level that was recently breached that has not yet been tested on the daily chart. And so I do have this support level here at 2650 drawn out. It's a new one that I added here because this is such a large range between 1980 and 3454. And on the way down, sometimes we could see, on the way up, we didn't see much price action in that range. But on the way down, sometimes we can create and form new support levels. And so you want to look at past price action. So 2650, I think, would be a good area here to say that Ethereum is in the range of 2650 and 3454 right now. The same way that Bitcoin is sort of in the range of 41,950 and 44,800. Ethereum being a little bit more volatile, but in my opinion, based on the Ethereum to Bitcoin chart, it's seen the most amount of downside that it should see if this was garden variety market behavior in a bullish trend for the Ethereum to Bitcoin chart to just come back, test the market structural support, and continue further up. I wouldn't expect it to come back below inside of the symmetrical triangle that it broke out from, because if that were to happen, that would also assume that other altcoins would potentially follow and slow down. But that's not what we're seeing here with the chart that shows all of the altcoins outside of Ethereum inside of an ascending triangle, testing the midpoint resistance of its parallel channel. And by the way, the reason this parallel channel is significant, I didn't take the top as I did with Bitcoin and Ethereum, because remember, I added that Ethereum channel as well. But Ethereum, The parallel channel here, because they're very subjective, I want to explain this to you guys. It's here because there's the double top, right? And so I took the two double tops, and I did the same thing that I did with Bitcoin. I took the previous all-time high at 1440, tried to take as much market structure as possible, because we do not expect Ethereum to ever come back down to 1440. That's a fact that I think that we could just kind of assume, based on the rule, that Bitcoin, once it breaks an all-time high, it enters its new matrix, let's say, right? Since we're a four-dimensional channel, we can start talking about matrix. And then Ethereum to Bitcoin chart, same thing, parallel channel, significant because of the double top. But with the altcoins outside of Bitcoin and Ethereum, the parallel channel is not using the top because there was a double top without a higher high or lower high. And so therefore, because there was a double top, it was harder for me to justify that as significant. I took the support level that has been holding, and I made the parallel channel based on that, and it shows pretty good confluence with what should be there, which is the midpoint of the range acting as a support and then also acting as a resistance. And so I think that this is the channel that we're in. And if that's the case, what looks more bullish? The Ethereum to Bitcoin chart or the altcoins right now outside of Ethereum? Because Ethereum already saw its upside move inside of an ascending triangle, ready to break out. If Bitcoin truly did bottom out here, or is going to bottom out in the short term, that means that altcoins are going to be extremely bullish, especially if Bitcoin dominance has already proven to us and has said to us, okay, I want to breach this low, because it already did 40%. It already told us that I want to decouple away from the DXY. I know in 2017 and 18 it was a different story. I followed the DXY up, but DXY has been on an upside move for months now. Bitcoin dominance has breached previous lows. It's clearly said to us it wants to potentially move further down, or that it has the ability to move further down. And if that's the case, that means that, I've said this before, if Bitcoin dominance were to continue down, the most likely scenario for the total market cap is that it continues further up, because that means that altcoins get liquidity, altcoins grow, the market cap grows. Bitcoin, being at $1 trillion market cap, may be a lot less volatile than the altcoins are going to be, but everything just kind of grows together, and the total market cap reflects that. If we were to look at the weekly chart, this was the first test of the 50-week moving average, and as I did with Bitcoin, I took that previous market cycle top here, which was 762 billion from the 2017-18 cycle, and I tried to put all of that inside of this parallel channel, where right now we're below the midpoint, which inside of a macro trend is typically the good, places to start accumulating the asset, because at some point it looks like it wants to reverse further up. And so I think that we have a clear decision here to make, and that's the fact that if we're bullish on cryptocurrencies and Web3 into 2022 and 2023, then now is the time to be dollar cost averaging positions into the market. Let's look at Cardano to the US dollar pairing, and then we'll take some questions from the live audience. If we look at what's happening with Cardano, notice how we have already broken away from the macro bullish trend, and we've just kind of been following this descending channel down, and it's just kind of been floating. We haven't seen a breakout to the upside or even a breakdown to the downside, but we have to ask ourselves, what's more likely when we're so close to its previous all-time high at 0.389? Is it most likely going to break to the upside or downside? Well, these patterns, these descending flags, typically break to the upside, right? And so we have to consider the fact that we've already moved away from the bearish trend, the macro trend, and that it's almost as if some of these altcoins, and we look at Cardano, has already went through its bear market and is now at a point in which it's finding a lot of support. It's, just specifically with this chart, and look at $1.25 here for Cardano, how many times it's acted as an extremely important area where it just doesn't move away from this price, right? It's basically because of the fact that there are certain people that buy Cardano to hold it for the long term, and those people and their sentiment will typically never be diverted. They want to hold. And so that's the floor, right? And as more investors come in, Some of them move into the category that want to hold the asset. Some of them move into the category that want to eventually take profits on the asset. And there's a floor that continuously rises up, and that has to do with inflation and so forth. And we all know this if you come from traditional markets. I come from traditional markets back in 2014, stock market, that when a penny stock breaks a dollar, that's a pretty big deal. Once it gets above a dollar, it typically never comes back below a dollar. And so we have to consider the fact that Cardano went all the way up to $2.50 from the initial cycle. And then it just started its crazy bear market to the downside, and people had to make a decision at some point or another. Where did they expect this bottom to be? They didn't let it go back down below a dollar because of maybe that rule, right? It's just mindset, it's psychology. Market's all psychology. And so these people accumulated at a dollar, and guess what? That was a great decision because then it went up to $3 and it formed new all-time highs. And then guess what? Now we're back to this area where in the past it's been a very smart place to accumulate the asset. And so Cardano being below $1.25, is that a good place to be accumulating? Let's look at the Cardano against Bitcoin chart. For those that have been tuned into our channel since 2017, you know I've always been big on looking at the Satoshi value, not just the value against the US dollar pairing. Same deal. We're breaking out of this macro bullish trend already. We've already started to slow down, consolidate, and now we're back to these lows that weren't in play for a very long time during the altcoin bull market. And you can see it's kind of the same descending flag that it's following. And it's actually looking more bullish right now. If we actually just zoom in here, look at this. We're getting above the 50-day moving average right now for the first time in a very long time with the Cardano to Bitcoin chart. Why is that important? Well, this could be indicating potential reversal here soon, right? We're starting to move above the 50-day. We're showing strength above the 50-day here. One interesting thing I've realized is that we look at the weekly chart for a lot of these coins, and even the Bitcoin pairing, not just US dollar pairing, is kind of mimicking Bitcoin, where it's coming below its 50-week moving average, or it might be sitting at its 50-week moving average, and it's just kind of having a cup of coffee, kind of just waiting on what Bitcoin wants to do. Now, Cardano moving back up to its previous all-time highs, you're going to be seeing a lot more upside than you would with Bitcoin, and that's why I think it's very important right now to be addressing a lot of these altcoins. I know a lot of people like Shibu. Let's just quickly just look at something like this meme coin, right? You can see we had the initial pump to the upside, but this right here, October of 2021, is really when it went mainstream. And so are we going to be going below those mainstream levels? Well, here's something interesting that I see with SHIB. If we pull up the volume against Bitcoin, there's no sell volume because SHIB is for the mass, the retail. FOMO, it's for the people that really don't understand the cryptocurrency market, in my opinion. It's like what, you know, Dogecoin served its purpose for a long time. And so that, you know, people that go to buy SHIB, they don't really know how how the process works, where you have to buy Bitcoin and then use the Bitcoin to buy SHIB. And so you could see the SHIB against Bitcoin chart. It's only buyers because that's the purpose of the coin. It's just to bring new people into the market. And so we're not seeing anything bearish here. We're still seeing more and more Bitcoin being accumulated and moving into SHIB, while the US dollar price is sitting at major support levels, just kind of wedging itself into these either descending channels or these descending flags. And so you can see even right now it's just kind of sitting at the resistance. This is typically what happens before you break out, right? Where you just kind of just stay at the ceiling. You know, you just wait and wait and wait until you can break it, right? So if it were sitting at the support, I'd say the opposite, but it's sitting at the resistance here. It looks like we want to see a breakout in the overall market. So a lot to consider here, and I just realized I don't have the live chat pulled up for YouTube, and so I'm not going to be able to take any questions from the audience during this live stream unless I actually go into my tabs, type